we are, episode 12 of the Hive. It's been nearly 3 months since the UK went into lockdown, couple of months since we started doing these, and so we thought it would be a good idea to talk today about some of the positives, the good things that have come out of this. So, because although it's been challenging, actually, as we've gone along, I think everybody, whether it be professionally or personally, has actually been able to identify good things that are coming out of the experience we've all been having, and we're going to focus entirely on those today. So, Jo, do you want to kick off with one? What would you like to start with?
I do. I'd just like to frame this actually in that I wasn't sure really how to approach it, and so I've looked at it at 3 different levels. So sort of macro, medium, local, macro, local, actually, and individual. So I'll start with individual.
Okay.
So for me, it's been about having loads more time with my 13-year-old daughter, who, as it turns out, now she is getting more sleep, is much nicer. She was very nice already, but she doesn't have her teenage stops anywhere near as how she would normally have done. So, you know, I've got that sort of lovely family thing going on. I've had lots of work to do, but I've felt more relaxed with it. I'm laughing that I'm sitting here in my hoodie because, you know, I can, and, you know, my hair growing too long, haven't washed it for a few days now, but just that's how it is, and everyone will accept it because we've had this sort of different life. So yeah, so on a personal level, just a different sort of environment within the family that has been really quite enjoyable, even though obviously all those terrible things have been happening outside of my little bubble. So
it sounds like you've been very efficient thinking about this from various levels, so you're going to put me to shame here. Lorna, what would you say would be your first one off the bat?
I think my first one is similar to Jo's. I didn't do the categorisation into I just off the top of my head winging it, standard. So the idea of treating people, seeing people as whole human beings, recognising that we are not, you know, robots that come to work and fit in a box, this little window on the world that we have, you know, so people now know that Lorna does a bit of singing, and occasionally, you know, somebody comes in with a cup of tea, and Jo's got a 13-year-old daughter. That's relevant. That's relevant to work. It's relevant even when we stop being in little, you know, Zoom boxes with each other. Hopefully we can keep that going. I think it's so important. We've been talking about bringing your whole self to work for a long time.
Yeah.
And isn't it weird that now that we're not actually bringing any of ourselves physically to work, to bring so much more of ourselves?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lovely irony about that, isn't it? Yeah, and I guess what you've just said there leads on to perhaps my first one, which is you're talking about the whole person and the whole human. And let's take Jo's phrase, push that onto a macro level and say it's also a realization of the kind of interconnectivity of all of everything, whether it be our personal life, our professional life, the fact that Jo's got a 13-year-old daughter, the fact that I've got a puppy, whatever. But actually, the fact that what we do business-wise connects with our community, what we do as people connects with our community, the organisations connecting with each other, countries, you know, globally, that whole interconnectivity. We can no longer think of ourselves in sort of splendid isolation or silos. And, you know, for years, organisations have been talking about breaking down silos, haven't they? Attempting to break down silos. So I think a realisation that actually connectivity is an important and powerful thing is good. Jo, okay, let's go back to your matrix then. Where do we go next?
So now I'm at local level.
Right. Interconnected, of course.
Yes, of course. Well, you know, despite the fact that there is some vitriol out there on social media and in the sort of world in places, what I've been so proud of in our hometown is that I'm a trustee of a local charity, Age UK. So people watching from the UK will know it's a charity about helping elderly people, which is over 50s apparently. That includes me.
I'm saying nothing.
And you know, the team that run Age UK and Hive and Limerick are just amazing already. But literally the day this happened, they went off. I've got goosebumps actually. They went into like overdrive and they set up our community hub, and basically they have managed everything in terms of all the people in isolation, older people in the towns, They've ended up supporting Ashford, which is the big town down the road, Folkestone, which is another town down the road. It's not our sort of jurisdiction, but they did it because they were so on it and got on and did it. And they've made something like, I think this is on like 1,700 calls to people, you know, vulnerable people, and they've had, you know, tons of volunteers, and we've had regular updates of what they've been doing, and they've just done such an amazing job. And I think for them, I think it's an opportunity to show all the great work they've been doing all over the years. You know, the people that work there have just been doing a great job anyway, but people didn't really know about it, and they've had a real opportunity to showcase how much they care about the town and how much they care about older people and how much they can do and how well they can do it. And I just think that's been a really great positive for us, and it's happened all around the country as well, and all around the world. You know, it's not just that.
And of course those experiences and very often new skills that people have learned by being involved in those things can only enhance their value in the workplace going on into the future. I was about to say going forward. I hate that phrase. I will try never to use it. Lorna, what about you?
You're not going to be surprised to hear from me. I'm summarising it as bold compassion.
Mm-hmm.
So we've talked about it a lot, haven't we? We've talked about the courage of somebody like Jacinda Ardern or the chief executives that are focusing completely on making sure that people are okay. And they've been quite bold moves. And I think it would be wonderful to see organisations in particular hold on to that bold compassion. And it goes both ways. It's the self-compassion that we've been talking about that leaders have to have. Mm-hmm. And all of us have had to have a little bit of that going through this, you know, recognising that this isn't normal and we're not, you know, 100% okay all the time, and that's fine. Mm. But at a bigger level, at Joe's kind of, you know, macro level, that there's been some real acts of bold compassion, and you've just talked about some of them at a community level, Joe, but I think, wouldn't it be wonderful if organisations could keep that ethos of doing the brave but compassionate thing going forward?
And that yeah, absolutely agree with that. And again, that leads on. I mean, one of the positives that I wanted to talk about was and it kind of covers a couple of things really in one, which is the realization amongst leaders that they need to get out there and be visible, and they have made, the best of them have made themselves extremely visible, and they have articulated their purpose in a clear and engaging way, and they've taken their people with them, but they've put themselves out there to answer the questions. They've put themselves on social media, they've sat in on Zoom calls, they've opened themselves up to say, ask me whatever questions you want to ask me and I will answer them, moving away from some of these rigidly scripted town hall type approaches to life. And that's been a real plus, I think. And talking to people in HR who've said to me, you know, we've been trying to get them to do this for years, and they've always said they can't and they won't, and now they've had to, and they've thought, oh my God, it's brilliant and we love it, and they don't want to stop doing it either. And that's a real positive, I think. Come on, Joe, then let's get you to the macro level.
Well, do you know, anyone would think that we all know each other well and have been working on this for the last few weeks, wouldn't you? Because we all seem to be leading on from each other, having not discussed this beforehand. My macro one is just that whole opportunity to pause as a whole world. You know, it's like being a comma, hasn't it? Or what's it called? A dot and a what's it called?
Semicolon.
Colon. That's it. Semicolon. You know, in the world, whatever it might be we're talking about, and in organisations, exactly what you've just said, that people have moved on to doing something that they perhaps might have wanted to do or thought was a good idea but never did. And you know, we've talked a lot over this time about flexible working and doing things differently, and the future of work now being the current of work. And we've, you know, all these people who've sold themselves on the future of work, what are they going to do now, because it's here? So you know, it's just been a real shove into whatever this new world is, and we don't know what it looks like really, and we don't know, you know, all of it won't be positive and everything else, but you know, how else would this have happened? It just wouldn't, and globally as well. Yeah,
absolutely. And okay, terrifying economic figures coming out today of what, 20% drop, 25%, 20% drop in our economy. I mean, these are seismic shifts, but we've demonstrated that we can adapt, and we can do things differently, and we can move on. And that moving on isn't necessarily going to look like the past, but actually, yes, sometimes it's a bit scary, but actually, by and large, people are being reasonably positive about it, I think, aren't they? So, Lorna, what's your final one?
I really do think we're psychically linked now. I think there's something's happened. Even in the colour coordination today.
Absolutely, look at us all.
My third is true agility or flexibility. So businesses have been talking about being agile for a long while, and particularly in the tech space, particularly in, you know, that I really itch when I hear agile terminology that's come from the IT world. But the true meaning of agility and flexibility, and that kind of metaphor of the tree that bends with the wind, rather than the rigid tree that snaps when the wind comes. I think the organisations that have really done well and will come through this, and the people that will really come through this in better shape, are those who found that ability to be flexible.
Yes.
And that's just, I'm not going to use the phrase VUCA because I hate that too, but this idea that change is a given. You know, we can't accept this business model from the industrial world of we fix it, we measure it, we control it, and all will be okay, and we can plan for the next 5 years. That's not the world we're in. So flexibility, agility, true cultures of agility and flexibility.
And moving on from that, that whole acceptance and actually embracing the fact that because we've been forced into a position where a large number of people, and by no means everybody, but a large number of people have had to work away from their normal place of work, and they have done so, and organisations have continued to deliver, albeit with challenges. But you know, flexible working, remote working, not working from the normal office or workplace, it's happened, and we can build on that really in a positive way, can't we? So great. Lovely. Anyone would think we'd scripted that, wouldn't we? So we'll pull out some kind of key points from that as usual at the end. But anything to counsel again, you know, thinking about those things we've been talking about, I just want to say, I think just don't get caught back up in the treadmills and the habits of the past and lose. It would be tragic, wouldn't it, to lose some of these positives as we move into the future.
Yeah, it's a little cynical as well. There's a lot of news, a lot of noise. What I really loved about your suggestion that we talk about 3 good things is that's a positive psychology practice.
Yeah,
gratitude, looking for the positive. And there's a phrase in coaching that energy flows where attention goes. If you continue to look at just choose those good things and keep looking at them, choose to focus on that. It's a practice that I've got into personally through lockdown, just to build some resilience. And I just think try and not to be a Pollyanna, but just guard against cynicism.
Yes, excellent. Jo?
I just think that's a really good point, Lorna, in that sometimes we have a tendency, I think, that we could tip over into sounding a bit Pollyanna because our experience compared to a lot of people hasn't been, you can go to all different levels, but we've got houses, we've got gardens, we've got community, whatever. It could be easy to sound like we're very tweedly saying this has been an amazing opportunity for everybody. We know it's been absolutely devastating for many people, but even for those people, if you can pull out those little pieces of things that you can be grateful for, those little bits of positive, that's the beginnings of sort of recovering from something that's been terrible, whatever that might be. So a really good point, Lorna. Yeah, I agree.
Absolutely. Lovely. Well, thank you, Lorna, once again, Jo, once again, and thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.